welcome back to Life from Moser. Hope you guys are doing well today. Today we're going to be talking about something that we feel is very, very important to us, and that is independent watches. We're going to be discussing two very, very interesting releases where two independent watches collaborated together to make these incredible watches that they released. The two independent watch companies are Moser, which is they really focus on bringing to light the capabilities of Swiss watch manufacturing, but also the other brand is MB&F, which is one of my favorite watch companies, as you know if you follow this channel. And they released two pieces in collaboration with one another. One is called the Endeavour cylindrical tourbillon, and the other one is the MB&F H Moser LM10. The LM10 was the it has a flying balance wheel on top of it. And that's kind of like the main attraction of it. Obviously, we're going to see huge design elements from both manufacturers. It seems as if the case and design of the watch is very, very focused on MB&F's capabilities in that sector. But the one thing that H Moser is very, very well known for is their ability to make these incredibly unique looking dials, and that's kind of what they added to this collaboration. So we're going to be discussing both these watches, giving you some in-depth information about them so that you can take away some knowledge about these two watches. Just as a disclaimer, I do not have these two watches in my possession. This is simply me presenting information to you about these watches. So if you're looking for a video where these watches actually are present, this is not the video for you, but I hope you will stick around so that you can hear my thoughts about these two watches. Before we get into these two watches, if you are new to the Life on the Wrist, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you like these types of videos. Also, don't forget to smash that like button for us. It really does help us out and grow on YouTube. Also, if you haven't seen, we have released Life on the Wrist merchandise. This is the logo launch collection athletic t-shirt, athletic shirt that we have launched for our site. So be sure to check out our clothing shop. It's at lifeonthewrist.com/clothing. You can find a link to that in the description. Be a part of the first collection that we've actually launched for Life on the Wrist. So the two watches that we are going to be discussing today really have a lot of the manufacturing elements from MB&F watches. Both of these brands are actually celebrating their 15th anniversary, and they decided to partner up in order to come up with these limited edition watches. When you look at these watches, you definitely see the design elements from MB&F, namely that flying balance wheel, simplistic dials, but really the flying balance wheel, especially on the LM10. You also, if you look at the other watch, you have this very iconic domed crystal which is the Endeavour cylindrical tourbillon. You see this domed crystal, which is very iconic for MB&F. And then you have this time display that's arched up at about 45 degrees, so you're able to read the time by just looking at your wrist horizontally. Then behind that, you see this really beautiful tourbillon cage that's flying in the back. This is similar to we'll discuss just looking at the Endeavour cylindrical tourbillon first. The Endeavour cylindrical tourbillon really takes its design elements from the Flying T, which was the first ladies' watch that MB&F released. It's sized up to about 42 millimeters, so it's larger than that of the Flying T. Obviously, it has this really beautiful domed crystal and this cylindrical tourbillon, which is about 20 millimeters behind the time display. This watch, obviously, when the Flying T came out, was an absolute marvel to look at, but also really pushed the boundaries when it came to what you could do with watch manufacturing. They've released 5 different versions of the dial, which is coming from H Moser's wheelhouse. You have this blue dial, a burgundy dial, a green dial, an off-white, and an ice blue. Each one of these dial colors comes in 15 pieces for each of them. And like I said, the dial really comes from H Moser. It's this fumé dial that is used and almost has this beautiful kind of fade where the innermost part of the dial is a little bit lighter and it kind of gets darker as you go out. This is H Moser staple, and they've done this with a lot of their different pieces. Like I said, the time display is at about 40 degrees, so you actually don't have to look at it straight down. You can actually look at it at an angle and you can see the time. Obviously, with MB&F pieces, one of the things that they're very focused on is creating horological pieces of art. They are watches that tell time, but they didn't want to create a watch, they wanted to create these really beautiful pieces of art, which I think they hit out of the park with this design, but partnering with H. Moser gives it a little bit of a different stylistic element, which I think is really beautiful. The movement inside of this one is actually produced by H. Moser, has 72 hours of power reserve. It's the HMC 810 movement, and has this cylindrical hairspring that is what is the focus of this piece. Really is the tourbillon. If we switch over to the other piece, which takes its kind of design elements from the HM101, this piece is essentially very similar to what the original HM101 is. You have this have these bridges that hold a flying tourbillon, or excuse me, a flying hairspring on top of the dial. You have this power reserve indicator at 6 o'clock, and then you have the time. What's really beautiful about this is they've actually stripped the dial completely, and they've put in a fume dial, which is the H. Moser side to this collaboration. And again, really beautiful, darker on the outsides and gets lighter as you kind of move in. It's at the watch measures 40 millimeters in diameter, which I think is a beautiful sweet spot for MB&F watches. Because these are horological pieces of art, they're a little bit larger when you wear them on your wrist. But what I like about the HM101 is it's a little bit more wearable. It's a more wearable size watch for me, being that I have smaller wrists. So it would fit really nicely on my wrist. So if you want to pass it along, that's totally cool by me. Again, they come in different dial variations, in the same ones that I mentioned, and I think this really gives the 101 a really different look to it. Having nothing on the dial besides the hands and this almost kind of like glass dial, it really kind of gives a lot of depth to the watch, and it really makes the stainless steel hands kind of stick out a lot. A lot of the times when you look at a dial, sometimes it seems very two-dimensional, and you almost stop at the dial, and that's kind of where you end. What's really beautiful about H. Moser's fume dials is it actually feels as if you could go straight through it, and it almost feels like there's so much depth that you have there that it doesn't actually end, and you can kind of stare at it and get quite mesmerized by it. I think this is a really cool way of iterating on the LM101. Let me make sure I have covered everything that I wanted in my notes. The LM101 obviously is running on the same caliber as the 101 is always run on. 45 hours of power reserve, hand wound. So again, very simple movement that they have here. The H. Moser LM101 is retailing for $52,000 US, and the Endeavour cylindrical tourbillon is retailing for $79,000 US. I think this collaboration is really a beautiful one, celebrating 15 years of two brands that really have kind of led the way when it comes to independent watch manufacturing. I am a huge proponent, and I like to discuss independent watch manufacturers because they really are the companies that are moving watchmaking forward and on the cutting edge of a lot of the technology that's being applied. I love MB&F, that's why I stumbled across this, but H. Moser definitely has a huge hand in moving these watches forward, and this collaboration is a perfect example of that. So that's the H. Moser and MB&F Endeavour cylindrical tourbillon, and the MB&F H. Moser LM101. If you are new to the channel and you didn't in the beginning of the video, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you like these types of videos. Also, don't forget to smash that like button for these absolutely beautiful watches. It really does help us out. Also, don't forget to share this with your friends who may think this is an interesting video. Also, check out Life on the Wrist clothing. We have a link in the description to where we are selling these launch collection athletic shirts, so be sure to check that out. And with that said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time.